Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us at today's Powerhouse Working Mom Mindset Summit, Self-Care Thursday. I am so excited to be with Cheryl Brous this morning. She is one of the leading experts in mindfulness in Westchester, and she's created and led hundreds of programs and taught mindfulness locally and nationally to thousands of adults and teens and children and schools and businesses and also privately. So we're so fortunate to have you here today. You know, before Cheryl co-founded Pause to Be Present, she was actually a corporate litigator and investment banker, and now she uses her decade of personal practice and training to write and speak and teach about the transformative practice of mindfulness and meditation. She's a busy mother of three and has expertise in mindfulness parenting, stress reduction, finding balance, and making these ancient practices accessible to today's busy and modern world. And I'm super happy to have you talk today, Cheryl, about mindful parenting. I know from my own practice in mindfulness, when I started a couple of years back, that's really why I started it, was because of my inability to not be reactive when my kids were driving me absolutely crazy. And I have to say that just learning these tools of how to be more present with my children, if I'm cooking something on the stove and they want to talk to me, just that moment of looking at them in the eye and being with them makes such a huge difference in our relationship. And so I'm so glad that you agreed to do this mindful parenting workshop, because I think it's such a invaluable tool to so many of us mothers out there, especially in today's world where the demands are nonstop. So thank you. And just one last thing to our participants, just as a reminder, we are raising money for Project Kind. If you haven't donated and are able to, we would definitely really appreciate it. You can do it on the Project Kind website, which is projectkind123.org. And what's really wonderful is that you can go on that site and you can see the stories of the women that we're actually helping and supporting through this very difficult time. So if you have any to give, any little amount would help. If not, or if you have already, thank you. And so with that, I will leave it to you, Cheryl. I look forward to today's session.
Thank you. Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, and thanks everyone for joining. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be here. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, mindful parenting. As Nicole mentioned, I'm a parent of three who are now almost all young adults. But mindfulness has really, truly been a gift for me in my parenting. So what I wanted to do was talk briefly to you about mindful parenting tips, how to bring more mindfulness, more presence, more calm into your home, and then end with a nice guided meditation to enjoy. So first of all, if anyone's new to mindfulness, just briefly, mindfulness is the practice. It's really a type of training, mental training, to be more present in the moment, with your life, with your children, with other people, with yourself, to really understand and be with your experience as it's happening. And when we start to become more mindful, when we start to be more aware of ourselves and how we're showing up, one sort of startling realization that we often have is how infrequently we are present, fully present with our lives in this moment. In other words, we're often here, but we're thinking about 1,000 other things, or we're worrying, or we're busy in our to-do lists in our heads, or we're multitasking, in which case we're never really fully present or paying attention to one thing that we're doing at a time. So mindfulness is this incredible skill that we practice in meditation to bring our attention into the moment, to be more self-aware of how we're showing up, meaning how our physical bodies feel and are, how our emotional world is. What am I feeling? Can I just understand that? And from there, and how busy our minds are. And from there, we make really smarter, wiser, calmer choices about how we want to show up. You can imagine, hopefully from this brief introduction, that mindfulness in parenting is so incredibly important. I'm going to tell you two quick stories about my own personal experience, which led me to really want to learn how to be a more mindful parent. One was when my kids were very little and I was driving them to school every morning. And inevitably, the mornings were a disaster. Inevitably, we were late. There was messes being made. They weren't putting their shoes on when I asked. They weren't listening. They weren't helping. Pretty normal kid stuff at the time. They were very small, and I would get incredibly frustrated. And what would I do? I would start yelling and screaming. And I would, you're not listening, you're being bad, we're going to be late again. I would get very upset. I would wrangle them into the car, drive to the elementary school. And I remember so clearly their little backpacks, they're all ready for school. They'd shuffle out of the car as I dropped them off in the morning. And I would yell to them, I love you, have a beautiful day. And they would walk in and I felt terrible because here I had taken this what could have been a beautiful morning with my children, and I was a mess. I was angry and frustrated and etc. So I knew there had to be a different way. And mindfulness helped me find that different way. It helped me be calmer in that situation, to recognize I don't want to be angry and frustrated all the time. And can I fix and solve the problems of either getting up earlier, helping them tie their shoes, making a more scheduled routine. And if we were still late, which we may have been and were after I became sort of a little bit calmer, that's okay. I wasn't screaming and yelling. And for me, that felt right. That felt better. That's one example, and I'll tell you in a moment how to achieve that. The second example was I was sitting with my youngest child, I remember very clearly, before school, because she started school after my older children, and we would have breakfast together. And this was such a precious time. And I remember her saying, Mommy, Mommy, she was probably 6 or 7 at the time. And she began to tell me a story. And my mind went off into the work I had to do and the emails I had to do. And then I remember her saying, what do you think, Mommy? And I remember sort of bringing my attention back to his little face looking at me and realizing I hadn't heard a single word she said. And once again, it was this moment of like, wow, I want to be more present for her. If she's sitting there telling me a story, I want to listen. How do I retrain my brain and be more present for my children and be calmer and set a better example for them to be the person I want to help them to be? So both of those were hopefully relatable experiences as a parent that we all experience. For me, were real sort of messages of, I want to do this differently. I want to show up differently. So mindfulness has helped me do just that. So mindfulness helps us better understand ourselves, sort of sort through our emotions, and find really valuable tools to help us calm ourselves down and choose more wisely how we want to respond, how we want to react, and how we want to show up for our children. Incredibly powerful tools. So how do we do that? How does mindfulness help? So I want to just run through a couple of examples of how we can start to practice this, and then we're going to do a meditation together. By the way, if you have any questions along the way, I just want to encourage you, because I love questions or comments in the chat box. There's a chat box at the bottom or maybe top, depending on what device you're using. Feel free to go ahead and ask. I have my chat box open. You can type in questions along the way. I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so how does mindfulness help? The first rule in mindful parenting, which is a great one of my favorite parts of mindful parenting, is we don't have to teach necessarily our kids how to be mindful. It's not a curriculum. It's not a list of things we have to sort of teach our children. The best way to bring calm into your home and to teach your children to be mindful is to practice this yourself. That is the most important thing. And I think Nicole mentioned that. I know I found that in my own experience. The more I practice mindfulness, the more I live more mindfully, it just permeates throughout the household. So you don't have to sort of put this great effort in teaching your kids things. You can practice yourself. And the bonus round of that is, it's a beautiful act of self-care. We as busy working moms feel overwhelmed, feel stressed. We are taking care of ourselves, our households, our work, our children. It's a lot. So mindfulness offers us this opportunity to slow down, to offer ourselves this beautiful instrument to help us be healthier, calmer, more connected to ourselves, to what's important to us. And by doing those things for ourselves, our children learn. So one last story, and then we'll get into the details. I was away when the pandemic started. I was with my oldest son on his spring break. He's 20. And we were far away, so we weren't really aware of what was happening in the New York area. And I think the escalation of anxiety and stress as the pandemic sort of became more real grew. And I got a phone call from my daughter, who's 15, saying, "Mom, you need to come home." And I said, "We were coming in a few days." And she said, "We need calm in our household." And I think it was, for me, it was, it's such a beautiful message, because she was underscoring that just my calm presence, just your calm presence in the house can make a huge difference. As we all know, emotions are contagious. Anxiety and stress is contagious. If someone in the room is feeling stressed and anxious and upset, we feel stressed and anxious and upset. Similarly, if someone in the room is calm and feeling okay, we got this, we can do this, that too is is felt by our children. Okay, so how do we do this? I'm going to give you a couple tools. I'll spell them out and then we'll practice them together. The first tool is, the first thing to remember is to take time for yourself. Take time for yourself to exercise, to meditate, whatever it is that helps you connect inward and helps you relieve stress and tension. So being aware of yourself, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling stressed, that's self-awareness, and knowing the tools that help you calm down, and hopefully meditation will be one of them that we'll do in just a moment. So self-care is incredibly important. Put yourself at the top of your to-do list. It is not selfish. It is such a gift to yourself and your family. And by the way, we're also role modeling for our children how important self-care is for them as well. When we articulate to our children, Mom needs to exercise, I need to go to sleep early tonight, I need a little self-care. It's important to take care of ourselves. So that's an important thing to remember. Secondly is a little acronym that I love, and this is a mindfulness exercise that I use all the time, and it's the mindful pause, which again, we're going to practice in just a moment. The way you can remember how to do this is the letters S-T-O-P, stop. When you're feeling triggered, when you're feeling overwhelmed, you can remember to stop, to take a deep breath, to turn your gaze inward, pay attention to how you're feeling, which is the O, observe how you're feeling, and just mentally note it. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. Whatever the trigger is, you just observe it. That's the O. And by naming it, there's a slogan or a word that Dr. Dan Siegel, I think, created called name it to tame it. Just by reflecting inward and saying, I'm feeling angry to yourself, you can mentally note it. That creates a pause before we, boom, react, scream, yell, respond. So we observe how we're feeling, settle in for a moment, and then P is then you can proceed in a way that is calmer, wiser, and best serves you and those around you. Proceeding could mean taking another deep breath. It could mean excusing yourself for a moment. I'm a big fan of mommy timeouts. I just need a minute. That also helps us calm down. Or it could mean coming up with a calmer, wiser way to react or respond. So stop is the mindful pause. Stop, take a deep breath, observe how you feel, and then proceed. That's really important. And then the last thing I'll say before we get started is all that we do in this meditation practice that we're about to do is what we can take into our parenting. So what I mean by that is when we sit in meditation, we're not only relaxing, but we're practicing the skills that are incredibly important in parenting. Those skills are the ability to slow down, We're going to slow down in just a minute. 2, the ability to relax our bodies, slow down our minds, and open to what we're feeling and thinking. So we can be more self-aware. I'm feeling angry. I'm about to say that, but I don't want to because that's not helpful. We can just be more self-aware. So we're slowing down, right? The third one is remember in that moment what's most important. That's a big one. For me, that example about being late, in those instances, I realized for me, and it's individual for every parent, for me, it was less important to be exactly on time, and it was more important not to start every morning screaming and yelling. That was a decision for me that I made. So I remembered in those moments what was more important. I didn't want to scream and yell at my children every morning. So I learned to take a deep breath and to talk calmly and to make better strategies to be on time and to have a more organized morning. So remembering what's important in that moment. I now have teenagers, for example, and for me personally, what's most important is to keep those channels of communication open. So I'm very mindful in how I approach them when they're feeling emotional or angry or whatever is going on in the teenage brain to remember what's important to me. And then the last one is to embrace imperfection. The idea that there's no one right way to parent. There's no one right way to respond. Everyone has their own individual ways to parent and to interact with your children. So the most important thing for mindfulness, from my perspective, is to find what feels right for you. That's important too. There's no sort of wrong way to do it. It's just what feels right for you. And in our meditation practice, I love the idea when we show up and we close our eyes, there's nothing we're doing wrong. We're just here embracing ourselves in our entirety and relaxing into just where we are. So I could talk for hours about mindful parenting. If you want to learn more about this, you can connect with me, log on to my website. I have whole courses in mindful parenting, but I wanted to give you that introduction and now guide you through a brief meditation that helps us develop and cultivate all of these skills that I just spoke about. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat box now, or I'll leave a little room after the meditation. Okay, so if you've never meditated before, no worries. This is a mindfulness meditation. All you have to do is listen to the sound of my voice. I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable position to sit in. I'm actually sitting on the floor, but you can sit on a chair or a couch. If you'd like to sit up nice and tall, you can scoot yourself up a little bit so that you're not sort of slouching. I find that quite helpful. And then I'm going to invite you to close your eyes for a moment. I'm going to invite you in to enjoy these next few moments of self-care. One of my meditation teachers likes to say that meditation is an act of love. So we're going to nurture ourselves. We're going to learn to be with ourselves in the next few moments and invite in some calm and relaxation and learn how to do that so we can bring calm into our parenting, into our homes, into our lives. Who doesn't need that, right? Okay. So you can close your eyes for this practice. You can also, if that feels uncomfortable for anyone, you could just create a soft, steady gaze. That's fine too. I like to close my eyes, so I'm going to do that now. And just take a minute to notice. Bring your attention inward. I like to say collect your attention. Our minds are scattered and busy and often looking out at the world, at our children, at our to-do lists, at our work. For the next few moments together, I invite you, I encourage you to give yourself permission to let everything go that's not happening right now. And we can learn how to do that by closing our eyes or lowering our gaze and bringing your attention inward, very close. Noticing how it feels just to sit in this moment. Noticing how it feels to be still. Can you feel the contact that your body is making with the chair or the ground or the floor? Can you feel the weight of your body as you sit? Almost a sense of gravity gently connecting you down toward the earth. And I like to use little phrases when I meditate just to remind me, a little mental note. Beautiful to use these that I'll mention throughout your day. Take these little moments to pause and to be present. So as you feel connected to your body, as you know how it feels to be still and to sit for a moment, you can mentally note, I am here. I have arrived in this moment. That is no small thing, to be fully present in mind and body in this moment. Can you give yourself permission to rest in the presence of what's happening right now? To just be aware. And whatever is happening is welcome. So notice for a moment if your body feels tight or tense. Notice the felt sensations in your body. If there's tension or tightness, take a moment to take a slow, deep breath. And as you inhale, create space and openness, sort of filling all that tension and tightness with air, opening the body, and then take a nice, slow exhale. Let that go. Relax. Let's do that again. A nice, slow, deep inhale. And a nice exhale. Beautiful. One more time. Slow, deep inhale. And a nice exhale. Beautiful. Now open your attention again to just noticing how it feels to be where you are. Now take a look at, with your attention, any emotions you're feeling this morning. And as I mentioned earlier, nothing is wrong. Nothing is unwanted. Nothing is meant to be pushed away or changed. Instead, with mindfulness, we're just becoming more self-aware of how we're feeling. And we can do that by just knowing how our emotions show up in the felt sensations of our body. You can feel frustration. You can feel relaxation. You can feel restlessness. So whatever you are feeling, can you honor that in this moment by noticing it? And perhaps you can name it. I'm feeling. Just by naming how we're feeling creates that little space, that little distance from it, so that it doesn't overwhelm us. We don't get swallowed up in our emotions. We just better understand it. So know how you're feeling in this moment and simply open to it. Be curious about it. And whatever's there is okay. Beautiful. We are learning to what we call hold space for ourselves, to honor and validate whatever we're feeling. Let it be felt. And that is the key to letting emotions inform us, tell us something, and letting emotions move through us. And we practice this in meditation as a method of self-care. We also practice this art of holding space so that we can offer it to our children. In the same way that we're doing now, we can open our hearts and our attention to our children when they're upset and just honor what they're feeling, validate it, see it for what it is without trying to fix it or change it. Just allowing them the opportunity to be seen and heard and felt. And we are practicing that same art of holding space for ourselves. So whatever you are feeling, let it be felt. Beautiful. And finally, let's take another slow, deep breath, breathing in, creating space around whatever you're feeling. Openness, acceptance, calm, and then a nice exhale. One more time, breathing in and breathing out. And your third beautiful deep breath, breathing in calm, breathing in a sense of being here, being present, being strong. And exhaling. Beautiful. Connecting one last time to the floor beneath you. There's great value in just feeling your feet on the ground, feeling supported by the earth. I am here. Recognizing that you have the inner resources to meet whatever challenges come your way. And finally, just thanking yourself for all that you do, for showing up today, for this meditation. Thanking yourself for all that you do for those you love. Just sending a bit of gratitude inward. Also so important to pause and to know how it feels to be grateful, to appreciate yourself for all that you do. Beautiful. And I'm just going to end this meditation with the sound of the singing bowl. So just listen for a moment and then you can begin to raise your gaze or open your eyes. Beautiful. Amazing. So welcome back. I'll just wrap up because I see that we're running close to, I think, 9 o'clock. But if you do have questions, you can type them in the chat box. Again, my name is Cheryl Browse. I am the co-founder of an organization called pausetobepresent.com. So if you want to learn more about mindful parenting, about mindfulness in the art of self-care, mindfulness and the art of happiness. I teach classes every single day. In fact, today at 4:30, we have a free class, which we call Thursdays, Thankful Thursdays. And much like what the beautiful work Nicole is doing, every Thursday we honor a nonprofit with a free meditation. And you're welcome to join me there, but check out my website to learn more about what we do. And again, I just want to thank you for showing up, for taking this moment to pause and to reflect inward. We as working moms have a lot to do. And in this environment, the pressures and stress can feel quite overwhelming as we try to guide ourselves and our households and our children through the uncertainties of the world. So that little practice that we just did together is a beautiful way to get centered, to find in a world of uncertainty a bit of reliability by just knowing we are here. We have all the incredible inner capacities to meet the challenges we have. And just to remind you, when we meditate, we open to this open-heartedness to hold whatever we're feeling in the space of love. Ultimately, awareness practice is in of itself an act of love. We hold everything about ourselves, our physical bodies, our mental activity, and our emotions in a space of loving attention. And that's what we're practicing so that we can offer our children our love and attention. That's what mindful parenting is all about, to offer that to ourselves and those around us. And we can practice that. Such a beautiful gift. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I will be back next Thursday for more practice tips and meditation. Come join me on Pause to Be Present anytime. Awesome. I see a beautiful comment. This is the first time I've practiced mindfulness and it makes me feel both emotional and positive. Yeah, beautiful comment. So yes, thanks Andrea for that. It opens our heart to see what's there. It opens us up to feel, and we have a lot of emotions right now. And sometimes we just need to hold this beautiful space of okayness and openness and loving attention for ourselves. Let that be felt. It gives us so much information and knowledge and wisdom. And we can offer that beautiful sense of openness and holding space for ourselves and our children. So thank you, Andrea. I'm glad you tried it. Thanks for joining me. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Nicole, for organizing this beautiful summit for such a good cause. So, oh, I think I can't.
I'm muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad that everyone was able to experience it today. It really is. This is a tool that is so powerful during this time. So I hope that you guys, if you enjoyed this, definitely go to pausetobepresent.com. They have a lot of wonderful workshops on a lot of different topics. And if this is your first time, it was my first time 2 years ago, and now I live by it. And right, Cheryl, the thing is with mindfulness is you don't need necessarily 30 minutes to do it. You can really do it all day long, and it's a beautiful tool. So thank you, Cheryl, and we look forward to next week.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. Thanks, everyone, for joining me. Have a beautiful day.
Bye-bye.
Take care.